What would you do if one day you wake up in a strange place, a device is strapped to your neck and you're asked to participate in a deadly game that involves you doing something terrible to the woman around you? Failure to comply means death. That is exactly what Euphoria is about. Developed by ClockUp and released in 2011 in Japan, Euphoria tells the story of Takatou Keisuke, who one day found himself waking up inside a facility with 6 other women and was forced to participate in a deadly life and death game. The game was remastered in 2015, and then 8 months later, Mangagamer released the official English translation, making the game available for a global audience. Now, what I'm describing is the surface level of what this game has to offer, because truth to be told, Euphoria is more than that. This game is not for the weak, as it contains stuff that even I personally couldn't handle. So as a warning, if you're eating right now or planning on eating while watching this, please do not watch this while eating. Euphoria opens with Takatou Keisuke waking up in a white facility room. A strange device is strapped around his neck. At first, it appears to be a monitor for vital signs, but later we learn it serves a far more sinister purpose. Keisuke wondered how he got there and who changed his clothes, since the last thing he remembers is falling asleep in his underwear. Not long after, the red light above the door turns green. Keisuke walks through and enters another white room. This time, he is not alone. Here, we're introduced to 6 other characters: Kanae Hokari, Keisuke's childhood friend; Rika Makiba, the annoying Keisuke and Kanae's underclassman; class rep Miyako Ando, the cool and silent girl Rinne Byakuya, the English teacher Natsuki, and finally the popular and mysterious girl Manaka Nemu. All of them came from the same place, Rokuke-kan Academy. Once the characters have gathered, a voice announced that they are now participating in a game. The rules are simple. Their objective is to unlock 5 sealed doors in order to reach the surface and escape. Each participant is assigned one of the 2 roles, an unlocker or a keyhole. These roles are determined by biological sex. Those with XY chromosomes become unlockers, while those with XX chromosome are keyholes. But by looking at the names of the roles given, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that only males can be unlocker and only females can be the keyholes. After the explanation ends, Miyako bursts into rage, likely overwhelmed by the stress and tension of the situation. She refused to take part in this twisted game. The others try to calm her down since they know their life is on the line, but Miyako wouldn't listen. To her, this is just some horrific prank or a very cruel joke. Keisuke stepped forward in an attempt to reason with her, but that failed as well. She's too agitated, and honestly, can you blame her? When you're the only male in the room full of women and your assigned role is to unlock them, it's hard to seem trustworthy, especially when everything about this situation seemed designed to benefit you. So Miyako makes a fatal choice. She declares that she's quitting the game. The voice acknowledges her statement and asks her once again to confirm it. Miyako, still ignorant of their situation, repeats that she wants out. Suddenly, the room goes dark. A few seconds later, the light returns, but Miyako is gone. As everyone frantically searches for her, the door in front of them suddenly unlocks. All of them enters the next room, and here we witness the first death of the game. In front of them is Miyako, strapped to an electric chair. A gag muffles her voice, making her unable to speak aside from making a whimpering noise. The voice returns, explaining to the group that Miyako's crime was refusal to participate. Her punishment? Death by electrocution. It's not a pretty sight. It lasted for a few minutes, and only after that, the door to the next room opens. Horrified by what they just witnessed and desperate not to share her fate, the rest of the group immediately proceed through. That was a brutal start. But as disturbing as Miyako's death was, it's only the beginning. Things get much worse from here. While the others are still processing what just happened, Keisuke quietly slips away and returns to the room where Miyako was executed. Just as he is about to do something unthinkable, Nemu appeared behind him and hugs him. Keisuke is stunned. At first, he thought she's trying to be intimate, but he quickly realized the horrifying truth. Nemu saw everything, and now she's threatening to expose him to Kanae. Keisuke is horrified. Kanae is his childhood friend. She is someone he deeply cherished like a family. The thought of her discovering his sick, perverted desire would destroy him. But Nemu didn't care any of that. She finally got something that she can use to blackmail him. Nemu agrees to keep his secret under one condition: he must grant her request. Reluctantly, Keisuke agrees. To seal the deal, she asks for a kiss. Keisuke hesitated but complies, only to spot Kanae watching them when she enters the room. Her expression was pure shock. He immediately pulls away, desperate to explain the situation, but Nemu stops him and just gave him a sinister smile. She refused to let him go and resolve the misunderstanding. Instead, Nemu decides to keep him here and make her first request. She wants him to choose Kanae as the keyhole. Keisuke obviously refused since he doesn't want Kanae to experience any of this sick game, but keep in mind of that first request as we will get back to it much later in the video. For now, the voice returns to announce the start of the second deadly game. Side note, if you're not on Rika's route, prepare yourself. She's going to be extremely annoying. The voice instructs Keisuke to choose a keyhole. From here, the game splits into 4 possible routes. Before we go deeper, let's talk about how the system works. Keisuke must complete 5 turns to clear the game. To enter a specific girl's route, he must choose the same girl repeatedly during those 5 turns. Once he did that, the story branches off based on that route. Now you can explore every route if you want the full story, but if you're aiming for the quickest path to the true ending, then just pick Nemu. Picking Nemu as your first route isn't necessarily a mistake. In fact, even if you skip the other route, you can still understand the story of Euphoria because the other girl's ending only provide bits and pieces of what's happening in the game world. But the real ending is through Nemu's route. Rinne's route is the only one that loosely ties into Nemu's route. But even if you didn't go through all of the route and just went straight to Nemu's route, since it led to the true ending, you'll still understand what Euphoria's true story is all about. I wish I knew about that information before subjecting myself to 15 hours of torture. So before we proceed, I want you all to know that the story of Euphoria is pretty much the same in every route. The only difference is what kind of punishments will be inflicted to the characters in their specific route. So to tell this story without spoiling too much of the plot twist, we will start with Natsuki. There's 2 reasons for this decision. 1, her punishment isn't too over the top. It's still considered tame compared to the other routes. In fact, the stuff that she went through as the game progressed is still tolerable compared to what the other girls went through. So it's a perfect place to start the game. And 2, you're not gonna miss anything important since the story progression is pretty identical until we reach a certain part of the game. And by that point, you pretty much know the gist of what Euphoria is quote unquote supposed to be before the big plot twist. So with that out of the way, we can finally begin. After thinking it through, Keisuke chooses Natsuki and enters a stark white room, where a box appeared in front of him. When opened, it reveals a set of instructions detailing how he should punish the selected participant. This punishment will get more and more extreme when we progress through the other routes, which is why selecting Natsuki first is the best option. After completing the first turn, Keisuke and the other get 30 minutes to rest before the next round. During this break, Keisuke decides to explore the room for any provided necessities. It takes him a few minutes to realize they're given only the bare minimum. The toilet is just a bucket and the only drinking water was lukewarm and was also put in a bucket. They're treated like animals here. Yet one room stands out. Through the glass window, he sees a lavish, chandelier-lit interior and a table set with extravagant food. This is the VIP room, accessible only by completing the bonus turn. Thankfully, the bonus turn's punishment is not too terrible, but I can't help but feel that it's only designed that way to give us the player a breathing room, because after that, the torture escalated. With a few minutes left, Keisuke returns to the room where Miyako died, only to find it empty as if no one had ever been there. As he wonders how they hide her body, Nemu appeared and started asking him about how he felt forcing himself on the girls. She threatened to expose his true nature to Kanae unless he complies with her demand. Reluctantly, Keisuke agrees. Nemu, thrilled with the replies, tell him to pick the same girl for the next 4 turn, promising something incredible will happen. After some tense back and forth conversation, the voice announced the start of the second game. Once the second game wraps up, we're hit with an uncomfortable scene of Rika desperately wanting to use the bathroom. The issue here is that her attitude is overly annoying. Everyone around her told her that she needs to use the bucket because they have no toilets there. But Rika decided to throw a tantrum instead of being cooperative. Now if you think how she acted here was annoying, then the next scene will make you want to slap this girl. The voice announced a bonus game promising to access the VIP room for participants. Natsuki, being the caring teacher she is, prioritizes her students' well-being and decides to join. Keisuke, on the other hand, has awakened his darker impulses, craving for more pleasure, so he signs up. As I mentioned earlier, the bonus game's punishment are relatively tame. It always favors the girls. These moments are the only times the girls either enjoy their interaction with Keisuke since they're in control. Regardless of the outcome, both end up feeling fulfilled. Once the bonus game concludes, Rika rushes towards Keisuke and pulls out the most irritating behavior ever. She gleefully points out the VIP room is now open, hinting she wants in. Excuse me? Let's not forget, Keisuke and Natsuki did all of the heavy lifting to keep everyone alive, and this girl thinks she can just waltz in? At this point, Rika's officially a parasite. Her cutesy act doesn't fool me. She's leeching off all of their effort. But Natsuki, being the selfless teacher she is, relinquished her rights to the VIP room. This woman, who's been doing all the hard work and hasn't even showered yet, she gives up her chance for Rika's sake. And if that's not infuriating enough, Nemu jumps in, claiming her own right to the room. But surely, they'll appreciate Natsuki's kind gesture, right? I mean, surely Rika would appreciate that, right? Oh boy, I wish that was the case. That night, Natsuki and Keisuke witness Rinne wakes up and enter the room where Miyako died. She seemed to be looking for something. This will be explained later in her route, but for now, it doesn't mean much to us. Nothing else happened after that, and we proceed to the next day. Now, remember when I mentioned Rika being annoying? This is where she really shows it. After finishing the third and fourth round, the bonus round was announced. As usual, both Keisuke and Natsuki participate. When they finished and heard the announcement that the VIP room was open, Rika shamelessly told everyone how glad she was to finally rest, completely ignoring that it was Keisuke and Natsuki's hard work that opened that room. When Kanae suggested that Keisuke should use the room instead, Rika had the audacity to guilt trip them. Honestly, if you're not annoyed and angry at this parasite by this point, there's something wrong with you. Of course, Nemu agrees with her. She loved getting under his skin. But Keisuke ignored them and went straight into the VIP room before those parasites could say anything else. Inside the VIP room, Keisuke noticed something strange. As he was talking to Natsuki, the food behind them suddenly disappeared. This baffled both of them. How could it vanish like that? This is where the collars around their neck comes into play. As mentioned earlier, the collars do more than just measure vitality. They can manipulate perception and consciousness. This is how Miyako's body managed to disappear. Keisuke comes to the conclusion that the game master must have manipulated his perception into seeing something else. There's more to this, but explaining further would spoil the true ending, so we'll leave it at now. After this, Natsuki and Keisuke talk a bit more, and this is when Natsuki discovered that Keisuke was being blackmailed by Nemu. She didn't know the exact detail because Keisuke wouldn't tell her. I mean, I don't blame him. Imagine telling the teacher that you're being blackmailed because someone found out about your sick and twisted fetish of being aroused by the sight of dead bodies. Who knows what her reaction would be. Natsuki offered help, but Keisuke declined, not wanting to jeopardize everything and risk Kanae finding out what happened to him. With only one game left, she decided to keep it a secret until the very end. The next day, we were treated to another annoying scene of Rika being overly childish. The morning starts with Rika asking for a sandwich from the VIP room. This caught Keisuke by surprise because there was no sandwich in the room at all. He asked Nemu if this was true, and it turned out it was. Apparently, the game master had provided a box containing enough sandwich for everyone. Now, I know what everyone's thinking. If there were so many sandwiches, why didn't the other mention them yesterday? You guessed it. Rika ate them all. When confronted, she justified it by saying that they were a present from Nemu and she was entitled to eat them all. This ungrateful parasite thinks the whole world revolves around her and that she deserves to be treated nicely, completely forgetting that they're in a death game. Surprisingly, Keisuke remained tolerant. He wanted to ask her if she noticed anything strange during her stay in the VIP room, but this piece of shit just ran away, accusing Keisuke of hiding the food. Listen here, you little shit. After the fifth game ended, relief started to sink in as everyone felt confident that they had finished and could finally leave. However, as they waited in front of the door, they noticed that it didn't open. The monitor lighted up, revealing that they had to wait 3 hours before the lock was released. With nothing else to do, Keisuke talked to everyone before accompanying Kanae, who looked tired for some reason. He stayed by her side and unexpectedly fell asleep next to her. When he woke up, the place was eerily quiet. As he searched from room to room, he couldn't find anyone. Had they abandoned him? Keisuke checked the time and his blood ran cold. The numbers were going up. It wasn't a countdown at all. He rushed to the exit door and saw the light had long turned green and the door was slightly ajar. When he entered, a voice spoke to him and congratulated him. Now it was time to start another game. Keisuke felt his anger welling up. He had just escaped a death game and now they wanted him to play another one? But he didn't have the luxury of staying angry as the voice revealed that he needed to rescue everyone. The voice did give him a handicap. Even if someone died, he could still proceed. That's kind of ominous, but okay. I just hope the first person he rescued isn't put in a dangerous situation. Oh, come on. Inside the tank, Keisuke saw an unconscious Natsuki chained to a stone cross. The voice told him that he had limited time to save her, and to make things harder, the lever was charged with an electric current that increased in voltage the more he pulls in. Keisuke tried his hardest and managed to move it slightly, despite the electric current slowly destroying his hand. This is enough for him to believe that he'll be able to save his teacher, but just as he celebrated this small victory, a blast of electricity surged through his hand. It turns out the voice had increased the voltage to its maximum, leaving Keisuke momentarily paralyzed. Unable to move, he watched helplessly as the water filled the tank, drowning Natsuki. He had failed to save his teacher. As he slipped into unconsciousness, he heard Natsuki's voice urging him to not give up. Miraculously, this gave him strength. As he stood, the voice announced that he had failed to save one person, and as if it was mocking him, it told him to do better next time, and opened the door to the next room. The next person was Nemu, pinned to a wall with a bowgun aimed at her. Honestly, this was a perfect opportunity to let her die, as her death would mean that Keisuke's secret is safe. But at the last second before the timer hit 0, Keisuke shielded her and switched off the device, saving her life. Though he saved her, he offered no thanks beyond patching up his bleeding arm. The two form a temporary truce, and Keisuke asks for help in saving the others, while Nemu reluctantly agrees to. Next, they save Rinne, who was bound and gagged on a guillotine. To save her, Keisuke had to prevent the blade from dropping past a certain point, which was no easy task since the rope was wrapped in barbed wire. The third person was Kanae, locked inside a cylindrical tank with a ticking time bomb. To free her, they had to solve a complex equation. I love this part because the way they solve it is pretty damn amazing. Nemu began reciting the Latin phrases, Omnis una manet nox, dum spiro spero, per angusta ad augusta, per aspero ad paradisum. I apologize if I butchered that sentence. These Latin phrases appear in the rule of the death game. Anyway, after writing down the Latin word, they converted them to numerals and were supposed to count each word, but Rinne interrupted and told them the correct answer was paradisum. You might be wondering why that specific word, but all will be revealed soon, so keep that in mind. After assigning numerical value to the letter paradisum, they calculated and got the number 1193 as the answer. They then added the digit individually to get 14, and then added those two digits again to get the final answer 5. After entering that number, Kanae was released and they proceed to the final door. As soon as they entered, Rika's loud scream can be heard. She is inside a glass box that slowly squashed her to death. The condition to save her is pretty simple: pick someone or hurt yourself. Kanae initially volunteered to be the one getting hit, but Keisuke didn't want that. Seeing that Rika was dying because of her indecisiveness, Nemu stands in front of him and starts cursing at him while also throwing punches in his face. Since Keisuke was already pissed off at Nemu from the very beginning, he snaps and beats her until she's unconscious. At that moment, the voice congratulates him and releases Rika. However, instead of thanking him, she ran towards Nemu, crying like a little bitch while making that dumbass happy looking face. Once they were fully rested, the 5 of them made their way into the dark tunnel. They kept running until they spotted a large metal door. Working together, they opened the door and arrived in what appears to be an underground tunnel. Kanae immediately pointed out that the exit was not far from their location. Keisuke wasted no time and pressed forward, but as he continues, his vision begins to blur and he eventually passed out. After some time, Keisuke woke up in what appears to be an underground bunker, stocked with enough food and water for someone to survive there. He didn't know how long he had been unconscious, but he knew he had to find Kanae and the others. A nearby ladder led him to a forest. Stepping into the open air, Keisuke observed his surrounding and realized the facility where they were held captive was near their school. Relieved to know they had been so close all along, he continued walking until he found a cave and entered it. While exploring, he heard voices and quickly hid himself. The voice belongs to 2 students in robe attire discussing a meeting. Intrigued, Keisuke disguised himself as one of the robe students and headed to the meeting place. There, he saw Rinne dressed in a priest-like outfit. This will be explained in her route, but for now, all you need to know is that Rinne was running a cult. After she delivered a cult-like speech, she tasked a few students with clearing a blockage near the meeting place. From their conversation, Keisuke learned what Rinne was searching for on the second night when they saw her. She was looking for an exit. The student dug further and uncovered a door leading back to the facility. While the others rushed to inform Rinne, Keisuke slipped inside hoping to find his teacher's body. Honestly, what is it with this guy's obsession with dead bodies? Unfortunately, he didn't find her, but what he discovered was far worse. On a monitor, he saw female students from his school being assaulted by the male student, with Nemu at the center of the chaos, laughing maniacally and staring directly at the monitor. As if she knew Keisuke was watching, she declares that she had taken over the school and held Kanae as a prisoner. Rage surged within him and he ran as fast as he could to the school. When he arrived, Nemu revealed another shocking truth. Natsuki is still alive and she used her as bait to lure Keisuke away. This is where things became a little bit disgusting. Nemu ordered Keisuke to teacher if he wanted to save Kanae. With no other choice, Keisuke complied, but at this point, Natsuki was bleeding from you know where. I feel sick just writing this. And it's not the worst part of the story, but it's undeniably grotesque. After that horrific ordeal, Nemu, surprise surprise, lied and locked both Natsuki and Keisuke in a classroom. This turned out to be a blessing in disguise as it gave both of them time to plan their escape. Keisuke learned that Natsuki had ties to an outside organization that provided her with key details. She knew where Kanae was being held and explained more about the collars around their neck. Apparently, when Nemu took over the school, she gained control of the collar, effectively holding their lives in her hands. The two devised a plan to save Kanae using an attack by Rinne's cult group as a distraction. I forgot to mention earlier, but while Keisuke was in the cave, Rinne's cult was planning to take over the school and overthrow Nemu. Using this chaos as cover, Keisuke rescued Kanae and the three of them escaped the school. After that, the story jumps forward 1 year, showing Keisuke and Natsuki on the beach. A flashback reveals what happened after their escape. Natsuki took Kanae to a hospital to recover while she and Keisuke boarded a plane to flee the area. The route ends with Natsuki enjoying her time at the beach, growing intimate with Keisuke, who has now officially become her lover. We're now starting Rika's route. One thing to note for the other route is that the story progression remains largely the same. There are some added dialogues here and there, but nothing significant enough to alter the overall story until we get to the underground bunker, which serve as the turning point for each character's route. Rika's route is probably the most interesting one I've experienced, second only to Nemu's. If I had to summarize her route, it would be a slow mental decline, humiliation, and mind break. At the start of Euphoria, Rika appears as an innocent girl, but her spoiled, obnoxious behavior makes her insufferable if you don't follow her route. That's why in the first half of the game, I genuinely despise her. She topped my hate list. So when I played her route, I expected a plot twist, something that reveals a hidden depth. Like she was only acting that way to gain attention and that deep down she actually has a different side to her. But that never came. This is her true self, an annoying, self-centered, overly selfish, childish girl. At least, that's what I thought during the first half of her route. After enduring the first 3 punishments, Rika began showing signs of breaking down. To cope with whatever was happening to her, she tried convincing Keisuke that he liked her, which is why he kept choosing her. This was clearly not true, and when Keisuke denies it, Rika broke down completely, blaming him for everything. The real turning point came during the second bonus round where things got truly interesting. Remember when I said that both round always favors both participant? Not for Rika. During her bonus round, she was taken to the VIP room, a paradise for her, a place to escape the horrors of the punishment game, yet Keisuke destroys that sanctuary. He did this because the requirement to win the bonus round was for her to eat the food inside the VIP room covered in his special white sauce. I don't think I need to explain what that meant, but you get the idea. That was the final straw. Rika snapped, uttering the word, "I hate you." From that moment, her demeanor changed drastically. She became cold towards everyone, abandoning her usual high-pitched voice for a low, detached tone. This change in tone shows how deeply broken she was. She rejected everyone and stopped caring entirely. Since Rika's route follows a similar progression to the previous one, I'll skip to the part where she was placed inside a glass box and slowly crushed to death. When we get to the part where we must save her from being slowly crushed to death, the group went through the same process of saving everyone. But when it comes to Rika, Keisuke faced a critical choice that determined her fate. If he hesitated, the game presented one of the most uncomfortable scenes ever. As Rika was slowly crushed, Keisuke realized he loved her and regretted not confessing sooner. But instead of feeling guilt, Keisuke was having dirty thoughts about her. And in the end, watch her get crushed as he realized that he loves her all this time. If Keisuke didn't hesitate, Rika survived and the story progressed to the underground bunker. This time, instead of waking up alone, Keisuke found Rika beside him. She told him that after he blacked out, she initially wanted to leave him, but since he saved her, she decided to take care of him while he was unconscious. Realizing his feeling, Keisuke confessed to her and the two shared an intimate moment. Afterward, he asked about Kanae's whereabouts and learned it had been several days since Rika last saw her. The game then continued normally until the part where Nemu revealed herself as the mastermind and captured Keisuke and Rika. This is where things play out differently from the previous route. Both of them were taken to a classroom where Rika was allowed to stay with him. They shared another intimate moment before Keisuke told Rika to escape while he went to save Kanae. After rescuing Kanae, Keisuke ran towards the cellar where Rika was waiting, but before he could reach it, he was attacked by an unknown woman in a black suit. In Nemu's route, we later learn she works for Nemu and she is the reason why Nemu was able to take over the school. Nemu then brought all three of them to the school rooftop for a twisted game. Keisuke had to choose between saving Kanae or Rika. Knowing Keisuke would likely choose Kanae, Rika decided to take her own life to spare him from the guilt. But Keisuke saw through her intention, reassured her everything would be fine and charged at Nemu. Rika was horrified. She knew that Nemu's bodyguard could easily kill him. In a desperate act to save him, she jumped to her death. Keisuke witnessed this, broke down in disbelief. The game then offered us a choice: retrieve and bury her body or just leave it. The correct one was to bury her. Choosing this, Keisuke rushed to the school ground expecting to find Rika's mangled body but found nothing. No trace of her at all. Suddenly, the unknown woman who attacked him appeared and declared that he had cleared the game. Confused, Keisuke tried to ask a question but his vision darkened and he woke up in a hospital with Rika by his side. The game ended with a time skip showing Keisuke and Rika on a date acting like lovers. We're now starting Rinne's route, one of my favorite because it reveals so much about her character and the plot twist at the end just left me stunned. At the start of Euphoria, Rinne appears distant and cold towards everyone, but she never fully rejected them, including Keisuke. In every route, no matter how harsh the punishment Keisuke inflicts on a girl, Rinne understands it's not his fault. She's also the only one who tries to be friends with Rika. This later becomes a problem as it makes Rika overly dependent on her, turning her into a yandere with romantic feelings for her. As for the punishments in Rinne's route, they aren't too repulsive for me, but the last two were deeply unsettling, especially the final round. Without going into too much detail, remember the scene in Coop's party where we see Seiko by the ropes in the bathroom? Well, imagine that but replace her with Rinne and put Keisuke behind her doing dirty things. And that is basically what this scene is. Honestly, it's not as grotesque as some other scene, but it still made me uncomfortable. Anyway, Rinne's route has pretty much the same progression as previous route, with minor dialogue changes and one key difference. Rinne prevents Keisuke from killing Nemu. In that particular scene, after saving him from Nemu, she then led him to the previously blocked doorway they discovered earlier, introducing him to her cult follower. Confused by the situation, Keisuke spots his classmate Ishikawa and asks for details. Ishikawa explained that everyone in the cave are people who escaped Nemu's iron-fisted rule. Rinne saved them and now they view her as their leader. In the cave, we encounter Rika again and something feels off. She speaks of Rinne with reverence, almost as if she's worshipping her like a god. Rika tells Keisuke that Rinne will save them all. Puzzled, he asks her what she meant by this, but Rika just laughed it off, saying that it'll make sense soon. When Rinne appeared, we learn a bit more how Nemu took over the school. She explained that Nemu had someone backing her up and she used the collar all around the neck to manipulate the student. Realizing his collar is still attached, Keisuke begs Rinne to remove it. She agrees, but only if he joins her cult and completes a ritual. She does all of this because she suspects Nemu sent spies to infiltrate her group, so to avoid any risk, she requires new members to undergo these procedures for safety. After this, Rinne launched an attack on Nemu's place similar to the scene from the previous two routes. The only difference here is that Keisuke witnessed the planning and the coordination of the attack rather than just its aftermath. I find it amusing that Rinne's strategy isn't about violence but overpowering her enemies through fear. Her followers allow themselves to be beaten, yet instead of complaining, they rise again like zombies. Rinne truly proves why she's a cult leader, doesn't she? After the attack, Nemu is captured and taken back to the cave, with Keisuke bringing Kanae along for shelter. A happy ending, right? Not quite. This is where things takes a disturbing turn. While treating Keisuke's injury, Rinne noticed something on his neck and declared it's a sign and fate. Initially confused, Keisuke brushed it off, not knowing that this is where things get disturbing. It begins with Rinne celebrating her victory against Nemu. She then talks about how she will finally open the first gate that led to the promised land, and the key to all of this is Keisuke. It turns out Keisuke is the savior that she has been waiting for the entire time. One thing we need to know about Rinne is that her mother was also a cult leader, and Rinne initially didn't want any part of it, but after seeing the mark on Keisuke's neck, she decided to follow in her mother's footsteps. She then brings out Nemu and tells her followers to do as they please with her while she guides both Keisuke and Kanae to the basement where her followers are praying. Here, Rinne opens a secret compartment on the wall, and what Keisuke saw behind that shocked him to his core. Inside, he found a mummified person propped in a sitting position. Rinne explained that this person was her mother, the first cult leader. She then grabbed hold of Keisuke and showed the symbol on his neck to her follower. Rinne then proclaimed Keisuke is the messiah that her mother found years ago. Now here's where the story starts to unravel itself. We learned that when Keisuke was still a child, Rinne's mother kidnapped him and did something terrible to him that resulted in her pregnancy. You know where this is going. Yeah, the woman in front of him is actually her daughter. After this, Keisuke was captured and Rinne have her way with his body. This continues on for quite some time until Keisuke has had enough. He takes her hostage and manages to escape captivity. However, at the cave entrance, Rika confronts him holding a knife. She's become a fully devoted cult member willing to do anything for Rinne. Knowing Rinne needs Keisuke, Rika decides to take her own life to stop him from leaving. But this doesn't work, and in the end she pointlessly ends her life for nothing. As Keisuke is about to leave, Rinne wakes up and tells him to stop. He noticed she's returned to normal. Or that's what he thought. He saw her talking to someone, and in that conversation she mentioned becoming the messiah herself. This goes on for a while before Rinne heads deeper into the underground cave. At this moment, Keisuke could easily escape, but curiosity got the better of him and he decided to follow her. They end up in a large white hallway facing a massive door. Rinne excitedly tells Keisuke that they've been chosen for paradise and force him to enter. A bright light engulfs them and the scene shifts to Keisuke's bedroom where Rinne wakes him up. We learn they've been living together for some time. Keisuke feels something is off but brushed it off, telling himself it's nothing. The route ends there, leaving us without any explanation. So now that all 4 routes are done, we're finally starting the real route, the true story that will reveal what Euphoria is truly about. The true route starts with Nemu, and as usual the dialogue option follows the same sequence as the previous route. But brace yourself, because things are about to get intensely disturbing. If I had to describe her route, it's a mix of confusion, anger, and hatred. And a lot of shit-eating. One thing you'll notice right away is Nemu's willingness to accept any punishment from Keisuke. No matter the pain, humiliation, or repulsive acts he subjected her to, she is willing to take it, and even craves for more. This makes her punishment downright uncomfortable, especially the final one. Nothing could prepare me for her last one. How do I describe this in a way that most people would understand? The final punishment is something straight out of Two Girls One Cup. This single moment in Nemu's route made me question my sanity. I'm watching this girl consume unfiltered, unpixelated, but that's not even the worst part. My real suffering came afterward. Her mouth was strapped open, leaving her unable to close it. And the material that came out was shown in graphic, unpixelated detail. I literally screamed. It moved slowly into her mouth, and the game didn't shy away from showing every horrific second. The worst part is the writing. Why do they describe it with so much detail? What do you mean her throat went up and down to swallow it? I don't like this. I don't like that route one bit. Throughout Nemu's route, you feel strangely inferior to her. It's an odd sensation because up until now, the girl that Keisuke had subjected to this punishment all starts off resisting them, only to eventually succumb to their desire and lust, becoming enslaved to those feelings. But Nemu is different. She never shows any sign of breaking down. Instead, she endures everything and channels that energy into making Keisuke angry. She takes it even further after they escape the facility. You may notice that Nemu constantly tries to make Keisuke angry. If you think that's infuriating, just wait until they get outside. That's where things gets out of hand. After discovering his school has been taken over by Nemu, Keisuke teams up with Rinne to overthrow her. But the plan fails and they're captured. This is where his suffering truly begins. It all starts after his capture. This time, Rika is with Nemu. Unlike in Rinne's route, Nemu doesn't abandon her but brings her along, which is why Rika grows so attached and will do anything Nemu commands. Nemu reveals she captured Rinne by ambushing her at her hideout. She then asks for volunteer. Rika, seeing a chance to prove her loyalty, eagerly offers herself. Well, she might regret that choice because Nemu has other plans. Nemu commands Rika's decision and reveals her scheme to torture Rinne by hooking her to a device. Rika, excited that she's been included in this plan, asks where she needs to place it, believing she's going to do the torturing, but Nemu grins wickedly and tells her that Rika will also be hooked to the device. At this point, Keisuke tries to reason with her, arguing that Rika did nothing wrong and shouldn't be treated that way. Nemu just flashed the most diabolical grin and gives him a choice. It's either Rika or Kanae goes on the stage. Keisuke knows he can't let Kanae endure whatever Nemu had planned, so with a heavy heart he chooses Rika. What happens next haunts me for days. I couldn't look at ice cream without recalling this scene. Without going into too much detail, the best I can describe this scene is, remember the human centipede where their mouth was stitched to their butt? Yeah, it's like that. Except in this scene, they use tubes. You know where this is going. That's as far as I'll go with the description. Honestly, I wouldn't have felt like throwing up from the visual alone, but the writing described it so vividly that I could imagine it going into my own mouth. For days, I lost my appetite entirely. The rest of Nemu's route is a relentless cycle of her subjecting Rinne to more torture while also provoking Keisuke. At some point, Rinne reveals why she decided to fight Nemu and overthrows her. You see, whoever defeats the one in control becomes the next ruler of the school. Rinne's plan was to take down Nemu and restore balance, but it failed because Nemu has a spy who tipped her off, allowing her to strike first. After this, we got one final scene where Kanae is forced to become a human laundromat. Again, I'll spare you the gruesome detail, but essentially a group of students hands her their filthy laundry, stained with— I can't do it. Seriously, let's just move on. After that repulsive scene, we finally reach the important part of the true ending route. It's revealed that Keisuke and the other girls are survivors of a death game that claimed many students' lives. Keisuke recalled running from the chaos, disabling his collar, rushing to the broadcasting room, and being stabbed by Nemu. With his memories restored, he returned to the broadcasting room, confronts her, and tells her that he remembers everything. He knows she's been in control from the start. Nemu flashes an evil smile and leaves. As she exits, Keisuke vows to kill her when the time comes. He didn't have to wait long though, because the next day, Keisuke learned that Nemu had taken Kanae. Rage consumes him as he listens to Nemu taunt him about what she'll do to her. Unable to hold back, he chokes her until her face turned red and her eyes bulge. This is it. Nemu is finally getting what she deserved. After all that infuriating torment, we're ready to see her die. Except she didn't die. At the last moment, Keisuke calmed himself and released her. He rushed to check on Kanae, but before he reached her, someone stabbed him from behind. At first, he assumed it's Nemu, trying to stop him from saving Kanae, but if Nemu's the one who did it, then why is she crying? Why is this cold-blooded sadistic person shedding tears for him? As his vision fades to black, one question lingers. Was Nemu truly evil? Well, the truth is, no. But to understand why, we need to go back one last time, further back to the moment we choose a route. You are Takatou Keisuke, a student of Rokogekan Academy who one day woke up trapped in a facility with 5 other girls. When the computer announced the death game, we can choose a girl and proceed to her route. You might notice that Kanae's route is now playable. Remember earlier when Nemu asked Keisuke to pick Kanae as his partner, but Keisuke rejected the idea? Well, now we get the chance to explore her route, the real, true ending. Kanae's route is fascinating because your dialogue choice when the choice box appeared can lead Keisuke to another route entirely. We'll talk about that later, but for now, Keisuke chooses Kanae and subjected her to the horrific punishment. I have to say though, her punishments are thankfully relatively tame. For once, there's no eating this time, which is already a relief. Still, one thing bothers me throughout this entire route, and that's the sudden flashback of this image. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea to flash this image all of a sudden throughout her route. Like one minute I'm reading through the text and the next minute this thing jump scared me. Is this a horror game? The rest of this route progressed similarly to Nemu's route, except this time Keisuke didn't hold back. When we get to the part where Keisuke choked Nemu, instead of showing fear, Nemu laughs maniacally, which angers him further, and he no longer cares and tightens his grip until he hears her neck snapped. Finally, she stays down for good. As he begins to calm down, Keisuke expects to see Nemu's lifeless body on the ground, but when he opens his eyes, he's stunned to find himself back in that white room and inside a transparent tank. As he wonders why he's trapped there, a girl's voice asks if he's awake. He turns towards the sound and saw a girl in a lab coat who looked exactly like Kanae. What's going on? Well, this is Euphoria's biggest plot twist ever. Kanae explained that everything he experienced was part of a game. They manipulated his 5 senses to create a hyper-realistic game world while he lay unconscious in the tank. Everything, from waking in the white room to strangling Nemu, including all the tortures and punishment, was all a virtual experience. Keisuke can believe that it was all a game, but as he followed Kanae, the truth became undeniable. He's been living in a simulation. Along the way, he met others from the game world like Rika and Natsuki. Rika, much like her game counterpart, is playful and childish, though her real-life personality is slightly more mature. The same can't be said for Natsuki though, as he learned that she isn't his teacher but someone deeply involved in what's happening at this facility. As he watched them talk, Keisuke can't shake the feeling that everything felt real. Despite Kanae's insistence that it was all just a game, he refused to accept it. The sensation, the emotion, the moment he killed Nemu, all of it felt too vivid. Unable to accept it, Keisuke snatched Kanae's keycard and bolts out of the facility. Researchers try to stop him but fail and Keisuke escaped. He spots his school in the distance and runs towards it. Now he expects to find his school ravaged by Nemu, but when he arrives, it's eerily quiet. There were no screaming, just the unconscious body of students being zipped into body bags. Moments later, Kanae appears and tells Keisuke that he's foolish for trying to escape. He should have accepted his fate and returned to the glass tank. Then she mentioned that she lost the bet and must take him to paradise. Hearing the word paradise, Keisuke freezes in fear. His body instantly recalls the terror of what paradise truly means. Knowing the horrors of it, he runs away in panic. He raced down the hills towards the road, running until he spots a farmhouse. Salvation was within reach, but as he frantically knocks, the door swings open and he's back in the facility. Kanae, with a mocking tone, welcomes him back. She explained that she manipulates his senses through the collar on his neck, projecting a simulated world where he thought he'd escape, only to guide him back to the facility. As if that weren't enough, Kanae dropped another bombshell. She was never his childhood friend. Those memories of growing up together? That's a false memory, planted by her all this time. And not only that, they tamper with his memory to the point where he can't even tell from reality and illusion. This isn't just evil, it's downright terrifying. Unable to bear it, Keisuke flees again, this time in the opposite direction, only to come face to face with Rinne, or what's left of her. Half of her body is fused to a machine, her arms replaced with prosthetic, tiny mechanical hands stretched across her head, mimicking hair. Shockingly, when Rinne wakes up, she calls Keisuke her father. This meant that in her route, where Keisuke revealed that he was assaulted by Rinne's mother, those were real and not fabricated memory from Kanae. Keisuke pressed for more answer, but Rinne suddenly goes berserk, freaking him out. Kanae appeared and took him to the next room. Here, she reiterates one more time that she was never his childhood friend. She reveals that Nemu had been mimicking her action this whole time, so Kanae decided to copy Nemu to become the childhood friend that Keisuke expected. Overwhelmed, Keisuke asks Kanae why she's doing all of this, but this bitch just smiled and said that her reasoning was to see him suffer. She then mocked him by repeatedly messing with his brain, showing him the kind and caring version of herself from the virtual world. She does this a few more times before growing bored and told him that she's handing him back to Nemu. Kanae led him to a room with a massive door similar to the one we've seen in Rinne's route. Inside, Keisuke sees Nemu sleeping in a transparent tank. The true story of Euphoria unfolds here, and there's a lot to talk about, so do check the timestamp provided or just go through the chapters. For now, we skip to the route's conclusion. 6 months pass and much has changed. Kanae betrays the organization and flees with Nemu. One day, Keisuke deciphers a code Natsuki gave him when he escapes the facility and contacts her. They meet up and Keisuke learns Natsuki quit her job. Together, they devise a plan to save Nemu. When Keisuke discovers Natsuki is a former mercenary, he asks her to train him and she agrees. Time passes and Keisuke completes his training. He tracks Kanae using clues she left at his old school, but when he reached the location, it's already too late. He finds Kanae dying in an alley from a fatal stab wound. But Keisuke knows that Kanae is a stubborn girl, and she didn't go down without a fight. Inside a nearby building, Keisuke discovers numerous bodies of people he assumed were sent to kill her. Searching one of the rooms, he finds what Kanae was protecting, the girl who he promised to save, his childhood friend Nemu. The two reunites and the game ends. So before we proceed on, I want to talk about the brutal and neutral ending of this game. Neutral is pretty straightforward. Just pick all 5 girls in those 5 turns and the game will end with Keisuke discovering that the facility they were trapped in was actually pretty close to their school. The brutal ending is where the game took a dark turn. Remember the flashback we've seen throughout Kanae's route? Yeah, that's actually a foreshadow to the brutal ending, but to get there, you need to unlock Kanae's route and pick every option that amplify Keisuke's darkest desire. This only appears on Kanae's route. You'll know you're on track for the brutal ending when Keisuke starts speaking like a total maniac. The rest of this route is pretty much similar to Kanae's route, except we get to see how Keisuke slowly changes and loses his good nature. It's pretty much similar until we get to the point where Nemu called Keisuke to the gym, which eventually led to her death in Kanae's route, only this time things didn't go as planned because when she asked Keisuke Keisuke if he wanted to torture Kanae. We get a new option where he agrees, and here's the part where it gets disturbing. Nemu gave Kanae anesthesia so she couldn't feel any pain. She then strapped her onto a table with her stomach exposed. We then see Keisuke approach Kanae with a scalpel in his hand. You already know what's gonna happen. Shortly after, the game master appeared and offered Keisuke a deal where he must overthrow Nemu and become the next ruler. The person then handed him another color, which he then used it on Nemu. The screen fades and we see Nemu with half of her body inside the concrete while all of her teeth pulled out and silicone being injected into her lips. I don't think I need to explain what happened to her, but if you think that's the end, it gets worse as the ending shows what happened to all of the girls. Rika is being reduced to a mere pet who is unable to speak like a normal human being. Rinne became his personal punching bag. Natsuki and Nemu become a doll. And finally, he put Kanae's body on the sofa and preserved it beautifully so he could admire it every day. So what exactly happened in Euphoria? Why is Kanae the evil one here? Is Nemu the good one all this time? Well, to understand the story, we have to go back to the very beginning, before the events of Euphoria. Before Euphoria's event, the rich and powerful fund a research facility to run Project Paradise. The goal is to extend the life of wealthy individual and politician worldwide by reversing their aging. But there's a catch. Age reversal technology doesn't exist yet, so until it's developed, they opt for life-prolonging devices, entering an endless sleep. Years later, a girl failed her suicide attempt and falls into a vegetative state. Her parents admit her to the hospital run by the researchers, who sees an opportunity and use her as a test subject. They connect her to a prototype device and discovers her dream-induced overwhelming euphoria. Realizing her potential, they make her the project's core. Nicknamed Sleeping Beauty, the girl is wired to a device, becoming the heart of Project Paradise. Some years later, Kanae's parents joined the research team and invent a device that digitized Sleeping Beauty's dream, crafting personalized dream world for those in the tanks. This breakthrough means they no longer depend on her dream. They can control the virtual world externally with a button press. This explains why Rika and Keisuke experienced different dream world. With one problem cleared, the researchers now look to the future. They know Sleeping Beauty's body won't last forever, so they need a replacement. Enter Nemu. Born in the facility and raised within the walls, her life changes when Kanae's mother frees her. But here's the thing. Kanae's mother is a spy, sent from another company who wants to take the project for themselves. She infiltrates the facility and grows close to Hokari, Kanae's father, who is the leading researcher at that time. Both of them married and they have Kanae. Before Nemu escapes, Kanae's mother hides her in the cave section, warning her not to leave or speak to adults if she wants to survive. Luckily for Nemu, there was a loud explosion and part of the cave was sealed off. She then wanders up in the cave where she met a young boy named Keisuke. She was afraid of him at first but gradually opens up to him due to his kindness. Keisuke promised to take her out someday to see the stars and travel the world. He then teaches her to sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, something that Nemu shows briefly at the start of Natsuki's route. For a while things quiet down, but as the saying goes, nothing good lasts forever. One day Nemu was captured by the researchers. Keisuke, who was with her at the time, knew that Nemu didn't want to return to the facility and she refused to comply until she was asked to choose either to erase all of Keisuke's memory or they kill him. This horrifies her as she didn't want to lose her only friends, so she chooses to erase his memory. Nemu then continues her role as the next Sleeping Beauty. Sometimes after they erase Keisuke's memory, he was kidnapped and assaulted by Rinne's mother, who is a cult leader of a religious cult. She becomes pregnant and demands the researchers to accelerate the growth of the Messiah in her womb. They agree on the condition that Rinne is handed over to them. She complied and the scientists took Rinne and her mother's fetus back to the facility to perform some experiments on genes. Thanks to the experiment, Rinne became a girl. But since Rinne is not a boy like her mother hoped for her, she was considered a failure and her mother eventually went mad. Rinne is sent to an orphanage only to return years later as a spare part for Project Paradise. Side note, the headache that she experienced throughout her route is probably the voices from Kanae and the other researchers. Since it was revealed that everything was a game, it could be possible that she overheard the researchers talking about her and that somehow influenced her. A few years after that incident, Nemu was given the opportunity to attend school. Accompanying her are two people, Natsuki, a mercenary disguising herself as a teacher, and Kanae Hokari, the daughter of the previous researchers who built the dream device. She transferred to Rokukekan Academy where she met Keisuke once again. The two then reconnect and spend their school lives happily until one day a murder game was announced. What happened afterward was pure chaos. Keisuke stayed with Nemu throughout the murder game and was about to capture the mastermind when suddenly he was impaled with a metal rod. It was revealed that all of this was planned by Kanae to bring out the Sleeping Beauty. You see, one of the requirements to become a Sleeping Beauty was to experience immense despair and lose all hope for humanity. They tried this on her, but Nemu never loses hope because she has Keisuke. He is her light at the end of the tunnel. No matter how hard things get, Nemu can endure it because she has Keisuke to give her strength. But after seeing him dying in her arms, Nemu instantly loses all hope in humanity and was this close to giving up and following Kanae's order, but in the last minute she begged for her to save him. Kanae agreed to do it, but only if Nemu agrees to do a bet. The bet was to make Keisuke hate her to the point where he kills her, but if she loses, Keisuke will be Kanae's pet for his entire life while Nemu becomes the Sleeping Beauty. This explained why she tries so hard to make him hate her. Against all odds, Nemu wins the bet and Kanae had no choice but to honor her promise. She frees Keisuke and he enters the VR to meet with Nemu. The two had an intimate moment, after which Nemu asked him to stay with her forever. However, Keisuke refused and told her he wanted to meet her in real life, not the version in this fake world. So he rejected her offer but promised to save her from the facility one day. Reluctantly, Nemu agrees to let him go since she trusts him. After he escaped, Keisuke trains with Natsuki for a few years and used his skill to save her. He found out that Kanae had betrayed the organization and took Nemu with her. When he tracked her down, he found her dead along with a few agents that was sent to kill her. Keisuke managed to locate Nemu but found out that her memory was erased. Still, it didn't matter because in the end, the two of them are reunited once again. Thank you guys so much for watching. This video took me a while to make because there's a lot of things that I need to adjust. There's some parts that need to be re-edited and stuff. That's why it took a lot of time. I'm so thankful that there's people out there who enjoy my content, which is why I feel so bad in taking time with my content. But I know I have to do that because I don't want to sacrifice quality over quantity. So again, I want to say thank you to everybody out there who take their time to sit down and watch my video, commentating, liking, and subscribing. That really means a lot to me. Anyway, we're at the end of this video, but before I end this, if you enjoy my stuff, don't forget to subscribe so you get to see more content like this. Like the video if you enjoyed it, check out my previous video if you haven't yet, and become a member to support the channel and get early access and more interesting stuff on this channel. That's all, I'll see you in the next video.